pertaining to the fire and EMS contract, one from the Town of Middlefield Board, and the second from David Carl, Town of Middlefield Supervisor, regarding the Middlefield fire protection costs. And that particular issue will be dealt with later in the meeting under fire and EMS. We have an email from Donna Latella thanking the board for their statement supporting immigrant communities and offering an invitation to a solidarity vigil on Saturday, 11/1/25 at 4:30 p.m. And I know there was some discussion of that letter this morning at breakfast with the board. And I did not know if any of the board members would like to speak to that at this time.
As some of you know, in response to recent immigration activities, the Board of Trustees issued a policy statement in the form of a resolution that was published, I think, 2 months ago now, following maybe our August meeting. And the letter was sent in appreciation of the board doing that. If I'm going to be out of town, maybe back in time for that rally, but I would encourage people to show their commitment to civil rights and equal treatment of all people in the United States by attending that solidarity march.
Okay. Do any other trustees wish to, of course, I know, just slip through the pages. It's like shell shock, I'm sure.
I can just add, by way of detail concerning the solidarity vigil that's being planned. It is planned for Saturday, November 1st from 4:30 to 5:30 and will be held on the sidewalk in front of the Otsego County Courthouse. The email that we received had invited a village official to read the resolution that Joe referred to previously. And as we discussed it this morning, I know there was some concern that it is an event that's taking place on the sidewalk. It has the potential to be long and narrow, and they are using a bullhorn, I believe, to speak. And we weren't sure that that was the best atmosphere to read what is a fairly lengthy resolution. So I'm not sure that that particular part will be taking place, but certainly people are invited to attend.
We also had concern because they scheduled this and we just received this notification late Thursday, time to make our board packet. But they note that as the county board does not meet until November 5th, I'm unable to apply for a permit to use any of the county properties. So it's really sort of taking place in their minds on the sidewalk, but it definitely could spill over. And I know I personally am out of town this coming weekend, so would not be there. So I believe we left it at, if then anyone individually wanted to participate in this, they certainly could, but not kind of representing the village. It's a statement that has been published out there. Moving on, we have review of minutes from our September 22nd regular meeting and our October 17th special meeting. I know both Cindy and I submitted some corrections. I don't know if anything jumped out at anyone else. If not, I move the approval of the September 22nd and October 17th meetings with corrections submitted. Second by Cindy. All in favor?
Aye.
And now we have 9 permits plus I think we're retroactively approving the permit for Yeah, I didn't see that there, but we will also do that. So first, permit application to use village property, village streets from Heidi Getz, Cooperstown PTA for the Halloween parade on Friday, 10/31/25 from 4:45 until 5:45.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
Application to use village property, village streets from Alex and Gretchen Laskowski to temporary close Pioneer Street from Elm to Beaver on Friday, 10/31/25, Halloween, from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. And I know there was some discussion amongst board members on that.
So we move the approval of it for discussion.
So you want to just, okay, you certainly can. You'll make the motion, Joe. Second by Cindy. All right,
Sure.
discussion.
Yeah, I think the concern from a street perspective is not that it's a bad idea to close a block during Halloween to promote pedestrian safety, but rather that this comes as sort of a one-off application. And really to consider it, it should be part of a larger plan. So for instance, if you can't drive down this block of Pioneer Street, then you have to turn down Elm Street, which is also a busy street. And if you can't come from Beaver, it's not a bad idea to consider pedestrian safety more thoroughly on Halloween, but that needs to be part of a larger consideration than a request from a homeowner to close a block of Pioneer Street.
Does anyone else want to speak to?
Well, I would agree. When I read it, I didn't quite understand the rationale for it because I know where I live, we get a lot of trick or treaters too. So it's,
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was a comprehensive and well thought out or planned request.
Right. Any other board members wish to comment? If not, I will call the vote. The motion was made and seconded. All those in favor of the permit application, raise their hand or say aye. All those opposed? Aye. Next, application to use village property, village streets from Fred Marionfield, American Legion Commander for the Veterans Day Parade on Tuesday, November 11th, 2025 from 11 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. And they are requesting the permit fee of $25 be waived. I move that we approve the use of Main Street to Pine Boulevard on November 11th, 2025 from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and waive the fee. I believe they've already spoken to our police department, which will caption it, which will front and back.
Second.
Second
Second.
by Cindy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Application to use village property, village streets from Tammy LaFontaine, Alzheimer's Association for the Walk to End Alzheimer's on Saturday, November 1st from 11:15 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. I will say I called our police department about it. As you can see in some of our applications, if it involves public infrastructure, for instance, the streets, there is a form that they have run their plan by our police department. It's the police department notification form. And I did speak to them and they got further information on it. They were a little unsure when they were doing that with a new officer in charge. And these individuals will, of course, be a little on the road, but as much off as possible on Susquehanna, past the sports center on Brooklyn Ave, but then they will be on sidewalks. They will be on the sidewalk from Brooklyn up through Atwell Road, down Fair, down Beaver to Susquehanna and back to the sports center. So that was a big clarification. So with that, I move that we approve the walk, the Alzheimer's Association walk on November 1st, using the streets mentioned from 11:15 to 12:30 PM. Second by George. All in favor?
I,
Next, application to use village property from the village streets from Elaine Brzee, Four Cs for the Christmas parade on Friday, November 28th, 2025, from 5 PM until 5:30 PM.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion made,
Second.
second by Cindy. I will point out that members of the Four Cs committee have met with the streets department, and there are certain ones that will be, certain streets that will sort of be closed off a little differently than last year because there were some concerns of pedestrian safety.
That was my question because there's not a police form in this one.
Yeah, it was handled by Barb, and she has submitted a map with it of where the closures will be. It was run by our DPW superintendent, and it's also been cleared with the police.
Are they, just to establish a precedent, can we approve it contingent upon receipt of the form?
Mitch, I believe you have the map. Yeah, he can circulate the map. So all in favor?
Aye.
Again, a permit application from Barb Cannon of the Four Cs, and this is for Christmas decorating day. And that is the use of Pioneer Park. I don't see the time. Oh, from 1 PM to 6 PM.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second by Molly. All in favor?
Aye.
Application to use a village park, Lakefront Park, from Jim Hill, Cooperstown Winter Carnival on February 7th, 2026, from 11 AM to 4 PM. And there's an explanation of the activities that will take place. I believe that is the ice slide in Pioneer Park for those of us brave enough to try that last year. It was actually a fun little ride. And there is also from Jim Hill relative to the Cooperstown Winter Carnival, the use of Lakefront Park from 11 AM to 4 PM for sledding, weather permitting.
I am very much in favor of these applications. We often get several other applications related to Winter Carnival, and I think we should approve these, but I wonder if in the future we can suggest it would be helpful to get them in bulk, so we're not approving one event to the detriment of another event. Yeah.
This is all we've had, so this is the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
second by Audrey, all in favor? And also associated, this is an application from Kevin Fritchler of American Fireworks Display for a fireworks display launching from Berry Spring Park. All the necessary insurance documents and licensing is in there. The event is February 5th, 2026 from 6 PM to 6:10 PM, which is one quick
Fireworks display.
fireworks display. Motion to approve by Audrey, second by Molly, all in favor?
I'd like to suggest on this one, we remind them about the cleanup.
Yes.
They, what we've ascertained is we have, and we certainly at some point could increase that, but we charge $350 if they don't return. And essentially, yeah, the money stays with the village.
The carnival committee could clean up on behalf of
On
their
the
fireworks.
next morning, perhaps.
Yep.
Yeah, we could certainly ask them. But then the money would be returned to the the vendor who has not cleaned up, but that's a whole nother issue I would let them deal with.
Yep.
We have a few more minutes, but,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
oh, right. So,
That it?
no, it happened Saturday. That one you're talking about? No. Yes, and I apologize. It was sent around via email. This event pertained to a Diwali festival
Oh.
or Sarah gathering at Templeton Hall. A year ago in October, we had approved the same event by the same sponsor of the event. And their request was essentially to after dancing and celebrating, they would be out on the sidewalk on Pioneer and requested 2 parking spaces in front of Templeton to be blocked off, and they would have a little hibachi for lighting some sparklers and other things relevant to the Festival of Lights, the Hindu celebration. And that was approved last year. There were no incidents. Unfortunately, as many of us who try to be sensitive to our permit applications, Diwali is based on the Hindu lunar calendar, and it fluctuates by date. So even though they submitted it in October last year and it was in time for the event, when they submitted it this year, our board meeting was after their planned celebration. So we did poll the board, and while there is concern that these events were not submitted in a timely fashion, I think we also had to be sensitive to the flexible and moving nature of Diwali. So the board unanimously approved it. And if you want, we can take another vote to reiterate that. And I will point out that Jenna spoke to them and really suggested that next year for any Diwali celebration, they submit in September. So I move that we approve the permit for the use of parking spaces on Pioneer Street in front of Templeton for a Diwali celebration. Second by Molly. All in favor? I know that there were some comments in the emails about timeliness, but I thought it was important to remind the board, this current board, that there was a time when the village office approved 90% of these permits. The only ones that would be approved by the full board was when the law specified that it had to be a full board approval. And that certainly happens for when we allow dining on our Main Street during the summer months, or, sales on the sidewalk, sales without any fee, et cetera. So that does require full board review, but that might be something to think about because our board meetings can fluctuate a bit. Next month, we're meeting a week early. And once again, people might miss it. And I think it's only in a public service that we should think about how some of these, where particularly the DPW and the police have already weighed in on how that particular permit would be satisfied.
I think it's a suggestion for us to consider, since the staff has the capacity to evaluate these, that it is still a policy decision if the mayor or the deputy mayor is given an opportunity to look at them and no one disagrees with the permit, it's otherwise in order, maybe administratively it should be approved by
If we hear any different feelings, we certainly would, but it seems like a way to accommodate the public when we're meeting just once a month. And there are obviously, we've just gone through 10 permit applications. I'm going to chat for a minute and it'll be exactly 6:30. So at that time, we will be able to open our 2 public hearings.
I make just one comment.
Yep.
A cake is a terrible thing to waste in the restaurant.
All pre-cut for you, and there are napkins and forks in case anybody wants one. So we have two public hearings tonight. One, proposed local law number 10 of 2025, amend the village's zoning map for 15 Chestnut Street for a portion of the parcel to be changed from R3 residential to B business. And two, special use permit to construct a 4-unit apartment building at 26 Walnut Street. I'd made a note, as of about 3:30 today, we submit these to the Otsego County Planning Department, and at that point, we had not received the reply from the Otsego County Planning Department. You now, I believe, have that in the additional agenda. In the additional agenda, as well as yeah, it's the one that looks like
Oh.
this, that was separately, because these are materials that came in since our board packets went out for review on Friday. So let's see. Pull that out. I will say that there was correspondence for one of them. So at this point, I'm going to open the public hearings for those two local laws. One's a special use permit and the proposed local law number 10 of 2025, which is essentially amending our village's zoning map. I will open that one and the special use permit to construct a 4-unit apartment building at 26 Walnut Street. At this time, I'm also going to read a written correspondence. I believe it was the only one we received, Jenna, from Josh and Jamie Edmonds. Dear trustees, as you consider a special use permit for 26 Walnut Street, I would ask that as a condition for granting the special use permit, the property be non-smoking and no short-term rentals. On our little corner of Walnut and Delaware, we have a 3-unit property, another 3-unit property, a 5-unit property, and Airbnb, and another Airbnb. All the residents are quiet and relatively uneventful residents. The only disrupting factor is if a new tenant is a smoker of tobacco or marijuana. That wrecks the quality of life on our little corner of town immediately. I appreciate new development, but I'm also familiar with the conditions that can be required for a special use permit and ways to make the impact minimal on neighborhoods. Thank you. Josh and Jamie Edmonds, 45 Delaware Street. So that has been read into the record. At this point, if anyone would like to speak to either of the two public hearings, please come forward to the mic, say your name and where you live. Thank you.
My name is Barbara Curran, and I live on Lakeview Drive, but I own the property at 24 Walnut, which is right next door to 26. And I've reviewed the plans. I have sent my concerns to the zoning officer, and he very nicely replied. I think I know while the size of that building may fit the property, but it's only 60 feet wide. It goes back a long way, and so they will build it long and narrow, I guess. But it's going to house 8 cars in the back of the building. That's a lot of coming and going on an already very busy street. I do have concerns. I've sat in the driveway next door for 10 minutes before I could get out. And that was not at school opening and closing time. So a lot of the buses go down that route, and also the village working trucks and the Bassett shuttles, and it's a very busy street. I don't see that many cars adding to that environment in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to either of the public hearings? I think we have to complete seeker for both these projects. We could certainly begin that, and I'll leave the public hearing open in case anyone arrives late and would like to speak to either of those. We'll keep an eye on anyone entering. Was there, I'm sorry, was there something from the? No. Let us begin with 15 Chestnut Street. To amend the village's zoning map 15 Chestnut for a portion of the parcel to be changed from R3 residential to B business. And I believe there was also, yes, in the additional agenda, you have,
Or
yeah, you have the parts 2 and 3. Cindy, would you like to walk us through all this so I'm not the only one?
Yes.
chatting away?
I'd be happy to do that. So we'll look at the short environmental assessment form part 2.
So it looks like this.
And somewhere in your packet, you should be able to find one that is labeled 15 Chestnut Street at the top. So this is part of our compliance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Going back several months, we did declare this action an unlisted action, and we declared ourselves the lead agency. So I will confirm that now. We need to fill out parts 2 and 3. So if you look at part 2, we'll just go down this checklist. I'll read off the sentences for the sake of those in the audience. And we will need to make a determination for each, whether there is no to a small impact or whether there is a moderate to a large impact. Number 1, read.
Shall we, I also want to point out that you also have in there, we did, and it was in your original packet, not in your additional agenda. You have the response from the Otsego County Planning Department. And you might find that helpful to also look at the their comments referencing compatibility of land uses, traffic, impact on county or state or other uses, etc. Just so you can have that in your mind as we complete the part 2. Okay.
So number 1, will the proposed action, and this involves rezoning of a portion of this parcel, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? I would check no
No.
to small.
Yeah.
Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land use? I would check no to small. Number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? I would check no to small. Number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? That one is no, because this is not a
We're not
critical environmental area. Number 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
I would check no to small.
And it should be noted that the county also said it's unlikely to impact traffic.
Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? I would check no to small. Number 7 has 2 parts. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? and public or private wastewater treatment utilities. No to both. Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? I would check no. Number 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? Number 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? And number 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? So all 11 of those are checked in the no to small impact column. If you then go to the next sheet, which is part 3, determination of significance, you will see for every question in part 2 that was answered, moderate to large impact may occur. We need to provide an explanation. We can also choose to provide explanations about anything else that we checked or that we want to say about this project. Is there anything that should go in that large space on this page? Everybody's good with that? So then our final action for this form is at the bottom of part 3, labeled page 2 of 2. I will make a motion that we check this box if we have determined, based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
And authorize the mayor to.
And authorize the mayor to sign.
Motion made, seconded by Audrey. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh. I haven't seen anyone else arrive to speak on either public hearing. So I am now going to close the public hearing and we will take action on proposed local law number 10 of 2025 and the special use permit. Is there a motion?
I will make a motion regarding 15 Chestnut Street that we adjust the zoning for a portion of the lot, changing it from residential to business.
The part that's becoming business is the all of the where Cooper Lane is, in case anybody didn't have an opportunity to see the map.
Yeah, and we could refer to figure 2
Yeah,
submitted
I
by
think
the
that's good.
applicant.
All right.
Their segregates street frontage of that parcel.
As recreate, as R3 residential,
Resident.
correct. All right, so motion was made. I'll second it. Is there any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to special use permit. To construct a 4-unit apartment building at 26 Walnut Street. So in your, as we mentioned, in your additional package, you do have the determination from the Otsego County Planning Department, which was just received today. Correct? Has everybody got their hands on it? Because I can. We have the seeker.
Yeah, so I have the 26 Walnut Street.
This, correct?
It was in the additional.
I'm sorry.
The additional.
Yeah.
It was in the initial. Thank you, Jenna. I appreciate that. All right.
It does return this application for local action, noting no significant countywide or intercommunity impacts. However, if you do read the longer version of this, not just the checkbox, there are certainly some things that we might discuss, including traffic.
Traffic.
So we need to go through seeker again for this one, just like we did for the last one. So if you find a blank sheet, you can follow along and we will answer the same 11 questions, noting no to small impact or moderate to large impact. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? The zoning district in this case is R3.
Mhm.
And so by right, 3 units would be allowed. By special permit, 4 units are certainly within the permissible uses of the lot. I would say that is correct. Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land use?
Yes,
So currently, this is a vacant lot.
yes.
It is being proposed for 4 units. So our question is this a small, moderate, large?
I think it's moderate to large.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on that when you have a parcel of land that's to be used for residential purposes and it's undeveloped? Does any development of it contemplate a moderate to large impact?
I mean,
What it deals with, Joe, is what we have now and what it's going to, you'll be able to, of course, decide if you can mitigate that.
Mhm.
It is changing the use, there's, in terms of what's going to be on that lot. And so seeker just is having us look at if there is a change in the use, then you decide if it's gonna be substantial, moderate, or minor. And then you'll be asked to look at whether or not there's a way to mitigate, right?
Well, what did we answer our first question? There's first or second question. Did
our,
we-
our first question was about material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations. So we said no. So our second is, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of the land? The answer has to be yes. And it's a question of whether it's small or moderate to large.
So the use isn't the zone use, it's no use at all of the land
That's what we're,
versus use of the land?
It's the proposed project.
Right.
Correct. So, I mean, it has to be yes. And then Audrey suggested moderate. Do others agree?
Well, I would also say what was there prior was a single family unit, correct? And now we're talking about multiple units,
Mhm.
which is a big change in character to what had been there. But, right.
So we can check moderate to large, and
I
then when
would
we
say
get to
moderate.
part 3, we'll discuss how we want to
So is that
address
the
that.
consensus? Everyone feel comfortable with moderate to
Well,
large?
I don't, but,
Oh.
you know, I just want to vote, but
But you feel it should be, it's small?
it's small, yes,
Mhm.
because we've changed our zoning since, that was a single family lot, right? Haven't, we changed it to permit these larger uses,
Correct.
so, but I just want to be clear about what we think are changes and degrees of change.
I mean, I think if we were to check moderate to large, then when we get to part 3, we would refer to our comprehensive plan, to the need for housing as one of our goals. You know, I believe that there are things that make this an acceptable use.
Okay.
I would agree with that, because we can certainly address how to mitigate that.
Right.
Mhm.
All right, number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
I think the design as presented and having, been addressed by our boards of this building really is kind of unique in that it may be a 4-unit structure, but it looks on the street side like a single family, if you want to say that, with just one front door sort of thing. That's my thought.
So I would suggest checking no to small.
Mhm.
Number 4 is the question about critical environmental areas. We know the answer to that one is no. Number 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? So I can read to you what the county said, and of course, we've heard a public comment as well. It says, this project is on a local street within the village of Cooperstown. The construction of this project may impact traffic during the summer tourist season in Cooperstown. Additionally, the parcel is across the street from Cooperstown Elementary School. Construction during times of student traffic may also impact traffic patterns.
Well, there seems to be two things going on in that comment. The actual development is one thing, but the ongoing use of the.
Correct.
I would certainly say is a small to no impact. And I don't know how we deal with the episodes of construction that's going to be temporary, and there are ways to get a lot of their equipment off the street, given the size of the lot.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that the construction piece is something we would definitely want to address in part 3.
Mhm.
Are there other suggestions for which box to check?
Besides,
You said small. I'm just
You said
ensuring
small.
that.
The only thing I think of is what was said here tonight about 8 parking spots and more traffic right there.
I know Wiley is here. Is the intention that the cars pull out forward onto Walnut Street as opposed to backing out of Walnut Street?
The only reason that the 8 parking spots was there is because at the time of the drawing of the plan, that was the required number of parking spots per unit. I believe it's gone down to 6. And we would be perfectly amenable, but we'd be hearing more parking, the same spots, the same amount of space. And just drawing forward 8 spots instead of 6 spots, it didn't really make any difference. This one's that we were concerned. But that was the required number of parking spots when the plan was drawn.
and so with 6 spots, that's more off-street parking for visitors. That would have less impact on parking on street.
The parking on street in this location is extremely limited because of the school.
People have to chase elsewhere for parking, but they'll go around the corner. The point is that the livelihood and parking are burdened.
Just so everyone knows, there is a parking plan
Right.
in your, in the application, and that one shows it with the 8 spots.
I'm gonna check no to small,
Okay,
unless someone speaks up that they don't live there. Okay. Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No to small. Number 7, will the proposed action impact existing water supplies or wastewater treatment utilities? I would say that's very small in the big picture of things. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Number 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? Number 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? And number 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Okay, so now turning to section or part 3, determination of significance. We need to address number 2, which is about intensity of use going from a vacant lot to 4 housing units. And we also, I believe, given the county's information, should choose to address number 5, particularly during the construction period. So, is there anyone who would like to propose anything that we should say regarding the change in use or intensity of use of the land? We can note that it is currently vacant and that 4 units are being proposed, and that our comprehensive plan encourages the development of increasing housing of a variety of different types, including apartments. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say?
Can we inquire about construction plan? Where staging is going, I mean, I'm not,
Regarding traffic,
yeah,
and particularly related to the school.
yeah, and it just seems to me that, we don't typically have construction equipment staged on village streets unless there's a specific kind of issue. And that's required for access to buildings, say on Main Street. This is seemingly all construction activity confined to the property itself. If there's to be appropriate egress, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Can you
that would
address any of that?
certainly- Go ahead.
Can you address any of that?
Yeah, that would certainly be the intent, is to have no machinery or any equipment parked on Main Street. I mean, as we just discussed, we've got number 8 parking spots plus the drive to go back to those parking spots. So and relatively low size construction in the grand scheme of things. So essentially a residential structure of the size of a normal house at large. So no large machinery will be on site long term. With a crane that set trusses for one day, excavators for excavation, but at that point the site is completed. But nothing will be long term on site and certainly not parked in the street.
Okay, yeah, so you have no plans to request street use?
Absolutely not.
So if I write, no machinery or other equipment will be parked on Walnut Street and all staging will be on private property. Okay. Are there any other notes that we want to include in part 3? All right, I will then make a motion to check the box that says, check this box if you have determined based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and authorize the mayor to sign part 3.
Motion made, seconded by George. All in favor?
Aye.
So now we move on to the special use permit itself. There were 2 recommendations concerning the special use permit made by email or letter. One was to prohibit short-term rentals, which seems reasonable in this situation.
Mhm.
And the other was to establish no smoking.
Can we do that on private property, or would it be they wouldn't be allowed to smoke on this public sidewalk? What exactly? We
I
have,
believe under a special use permit, you have the authority to hold that. You don't have to
The
issue
property.
it. If you feel it's a reasonable request, that's
Mhm.
gonna be your decision. The special use permits, if you use them up with all forms of conditions that are granted.
How do you enforce that?
You go in each night.
Taking the complaint seriously, even if I don't agree, we can do something about it or should, it's the outdoor smoking on the private property that will carry over to somebody else's property.
My concern is if we prohibit smoking on the property, which I would not be opposed to doing. then the individuals who may live on that property or their guests who smoke are more likely to go to public property, including directly across the street if they have, which is just kind of,
And, yeah, and even though, it's prohibited there too, there is gonna be a back gate to the property from this back and front.
yes, and in Badger Park, smoking is prohibited.
Right. But, yeah, I mean, I'd like to establish conditions that we can reasonable. And I don't know how we're doing for this. I'm totally opposed to it as a principle, but as a government, I would always say no easily. And have a meeting, so other than, you know, no knock, warrants.
Familiar with those.
I did wonder, I don't know, Audrey, if the Parks Board has thought about this at all, but I wonder about including access to Badger Park through private property and whether that's anything that's been discussed or should be discussed.
No, but maybe it should be. Yeah. Because this backs right up against Badger Park.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, I think the idea of having to go a long way around to enjoy a public amenity, all they're talking about is putting a gate in their own backyard, right? There's not a fence, they're going to be beach units that we have.
And for the units there served, it's very interesting because Badger Park has very little fencing around it. I
Right.
know that there's an application coming or already presented to our planning board to put a fence on a property on their back edge of their property next to Badger Park. But interestingly, the neighbors are not always happy about that because if there's one fence, then everybody's just going to go on my property or
Right.
the neighboring property to get around it. It's always been very much kind of a community park in that, you know,
Right.
residents go there.
And I don't see how a private fence with a gate in it is within the province of Parks Board West to say no to.
No, in some ways, it's actually kind of better because if there are kids elementary school, you aren't going to have them shortcutting across that property and the subsequent liability concerns. I think
Right.
fencing's fine. If they, you know, they might see the gate, but if they think twice before they would trespass on somebody's property and go through a gate, it's not the best access to that park either.
Yeah.
It's kind
yeah.
of swampy-ish.
That,
Right.
and that was my concern is if we are allowing a gate onto our property, are we then responsible for what is immediately on the other side, the
No.
public side of the gate, which is a swampy mess?
Mhm.
Well, perhaps, but in fairness to this is a gate on a private fence
Mhm.
that could be swung open to get a better breeze. I mean, it's, I don't think you should go there.
So I'll make a motion to approve the application for a special use permit for 26 Walnut Street for 4 units with the stipulation that none of those units can be used for short-term rentals. Second.
Second, all right. Any other kind of qualifiers you would like on this?
Is there something we're not thinking of that you have in mind?
Not necessarily, you know, it really wouldn't be on the special permit. I would hope it could be conveyed for the construction phase. As far as construction vehicles on that street, in front of the property or, you know, obviously.
We put it on seeker. Should we include it in the special use permit?
It makes it enforceable.
I-
Somebody temporary.
Yeah.
construct.
I'm happy.
During the period of construction.
Yeah, I'm happy,
That way.
I'm happy to amend my motion to include a second condition that no construction vehicles or materials be parked or staged on Walnut Street during the construction period.
May I just ask if livery would be included in that? Like somebody comes up with a truck, drives it, drives away. Instead of having to pull into the driveway, which might be worse for traffic than
We do have that kind of
True.
construction on street permit that they get. Mitch, do you have any thoughts or comments on this? The delivery, yeah. Other than delivery.
Yeah, other than
Materials.
delivery.
Yeah.
And clearly time your deliveries around the
Outside.
school day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other caveats? No, so the motion has been made, seconded, has those particular restrictions on the special use permit. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, I don't see. Okay. Moving on to our agenda. We have, we received in the via email digitally, the minutes for, let's see, it was planning board and HPARP, correct? Or
ZBA
ZBA and HPARP and,
planning board should meet.
planning board did not meet. So hopefully we've all read. Were there any questions on the digital minutes, draft minutes that were circulated? No. If not, I make a motion to approve the zoning officials report.
Second?
Second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to police committee.
Public Safety, Police Committee, Police Subcommittee at the Village of Cooperstown was held on October 8th, 2025. We were with the police department, we appeared to transition. Longtime chief has decided to finally retire after many, many years as a police officer. Jess Lanza has stepped up and is now one of two officers serving as senior patrol officer and overseeing the operation. Staffing remains a problem. We have many part-timers. We have two young officers who are still receiving quite a bit of training. Timing is good because this is the quiet season for us here in November, so we have an offer between to ride with a senior officer and save for a couple of things such as the parades that are coming up and that devote a lot of time to street time as part of their learning exercise. Okay. 54 calls during the month of September. Nothing really unusual, nothing that should cause great concern to the residents of the. We answer a lot of calls, we do a lot of patrol, we assign resources to the schools on a regular basis. We should be coming up for another lockdown drill, which is part of the regular exercises that we undertake throughout the school year. Other than that, we're kind of sailing along pretty nicely considering some of the transitional stuff that we have going on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me ask a question about how many lockdown drills the school holds each year?
I believe it's 3, but again, it can change. It's part of a natural process throughout the country because of some of the events that have taken place. School isn't made aware. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise drill and all that. The exercise has been going on for at least a couple of years at this point. So most of the students, save for the newest students, are familiar with it. The teachers are aware. And I haven't heard anything suggesting that it tends to be traumatic for the kids in there as much as they try to replicate, an actual incident there.
Yeah, I thought former chief did say that it is realistic. That there is a shock and awe component to these drills.
Oh.
So, I don't know what discretion school has or the police department has under whatever state guidelines or federal guidelines are being furnished to them, but when we were kids, we had a fire drill once a year, maybe. But this, I think this is an ongoing traumatization of children, and I
So
wish there was some way to deal with this.
New York State requires 4 lockdown drills per year as part of 12 emergency drills.
Well, that's something we should probably talk up the chain of command about. Thanks.
All right.
I think one of the things that happens is certainly for new students, again, the level of trauma might be pretty, but the drills are run 4 times a year. And I think there's some, as you're well aware, my wife was a school teacher, and the kids are prepared. You have to be aware of this, okay? We talk about it, and then it happens. So it's not like surprise, you have guys swinging in through windows or anything like that. Try to balance the potential, what actions need to be taken if God forbid we do have a real incident. Okay. But I also don't think it's brought to the level where kids walk away where they're afraid to go back to school the next day.
Well, I'll just make this last remark. Any public safety program that requires securing the immediate school perimeter to save a life means we fail. We need much better gun control than we've got in this country, and we need to change our culture about it. Thanks.
Any other questions?
No. You going on to fire and EMS?
Yes. Fire EMS committee took place at the fire hall on Wednesday, October 18th. The attendees include the chief, president, EMS captain Mike Simons, and squad lieutenant Jonathan Megner. And county emergency coordinator Victor Jones, as well as yours truly and Ms. Porsche here. During the reporting period, which was from September 18th through October 15th, there were 14 fire calls, 6 in the village of Cooperstown, 6 in Middlefield, and 2 in the town of Mount Safe. There were 6 calls precipitated by automatic fire alarms. 2 of these were unintentional, 2 calls were canceled. There was also 1 false activation of a fire alarm. Additionally, there was a dumpster fire here in the village and a call involving tree branches who fell onto electric lines who caused the fire. And finally, it was an unfounded structure fire in Middlefield. To the credit of the new administration, the department's done a really, really nice job on the fire side, providing us with a detailed summary of activity, number of calls, the type of call as it came in, how it was resolved, and that's been very, very helpful in putting the reports together. On the other side of the house, EMS, they were summoned 59 times. Unfortunately, in 20 instances, they were unable to raise a crew. To their credit, they do provide standby service at a number of events that go on. Again, even though we're well into the fall months, we still have a lot of busy activity going. They're really terrific, including a lot of the athletic events that take place in the schools. Of those calls, 20 were within the village, 6 in Middlefield, and 7 on Seagull, and 3 in Springfield. The big news out of the squad is they're doing a 30-day trial for Starlink satellite internet service, which is a pretty, again, we're in the space age in so many ways. And what that allows us to do during this trial period, if we purchase the service, is if George Fascinelli has a heart attack, they hook me up to an EKG machine in the ambulance. That information can be wired directly to the hospital, which would allow the hospital to prep the appropriate team, depending on what that EKG says. So that's a pretty, and again, just great. Mike Simons does a great job exploring those types of technologies that serve to enforce the services that we provide. The last thing is they're gearing up for the Price Chopper food drive, which they do at this time of the year. I don't have a date yet,
I think they talked about December 13th.
the 13th.
Yes, it's gonna go on the, I confirm the date.
Thank you, but they fill an ambulance. And then old guys like me go up to the food pantry and bring all the boxes and cans down to the basement. But it's a really, really nice community meeting exercise there.
Can I ask a question? I'm trying to understand the numbers on the EMS. When we say we can't raise a crew, and yet there's a summons, what happens to service the event?
It drops to other agencies.
And so then in the next paragraph, there were a total of 44 calls. The way I read the 26, 15, and 3. So I'm trying to correlate that to the 59 and the 20. But maybe I'm just missing something. I don't want to dwell on it. I was just having trouble.
I'll take a look at it later. I'll get back to you if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions, comments on the
I just want to add, we had an extensive discussion about finances and funds and how money is managed both on the fire side and the EMS side. And I think it was very helpful for us to understand that and the policies and procedures they have in place for purchases. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's really commendable that EMS, as we know, purchased a truck, a trailer, and a UTV in the past with their funds. And in these particular minutes, it appears they're funding the Starlink satellite internet service for the ambulances and covering all the associated expenses. So these are, great savings for our taxpayers, and really appreciated that volunteers contribute so much. All right, so motion to approve public safety report by Molly, second by Audrey. All in favor? Aye. Before we move on from that, we have the town of Middlefield supervisors sitting here very patiently. And I think you all are aware, because there were emails in early October, I believe it was, from, the entire town of Middlefield board to the entire village of Cooperstown board. And so in your additional packet, there's a few items. And first of all, just in case there's a little confusion, there is basically a two-partish, I guess, is there a reason there's two parts there? Well, one shows the complete sort of Otsego, and this one shows a little more of the complete Middlefield. That district, which lies wholly in the town of Middlefield, is covered by our fire department. And as a result, kind of fire and EMS, if you want to think about it that way. But this particular form, which is an Excel sheet, has been done every year for about 10 years, because we were advised by the New York State Comptroller when we negotiate, and they are theoretically negotiated contracts for these fire department districts, whether it be Otsego, Middlefield, or in the case of EMS, we also have a contract with the town of Springfield, probably for the EMS component. That it needed to be based, it couldn't be kind of an arbitrary figure. I think when Cindy and I first came on the board, there was a figure in the budget, every year we add 2% to it, and there was no understanding or comprehension by anyone else who had arrived on the board earlier, what that figure even correlated to. So we were advised by the New York State Comptroller that it should be based on actual expenses for a budget year. So what you see in that Excel sort of sheet is our completed. Remember, we're not on a calendar year, we're on a June 1st to May 31st year. So our completed budget for 6/1/23 to 5/31/24 is there. And then we have usage or response statistics, and those statistics, the number of calls, the percentage of calls, et cetera, versus the total expense is how the contracts were calculated. We well know that that system worked well for about 10 or more years. We had an anomaly in our June 2023 budget, in that those of us who are involved in the village budget know that we begin budget workshops in February because by law, the village has to present a tentative budget by March 20th every year. So that's when we kind of lock in. We then set a budget hearing in early April, usually at the organizational meeting somewhere in that first week in April. And by the end of that month, by the end of April, we have to approve our budget. So we have to approve it prior to May 1st. It will take effect June 1st. So we conscientiously do that every year. In June 1st, 2023 year, we were 8 days into our brand new budget when the opportunity for an aerial truck became critical. We had the older ladder truck, which was about 25 or so years old, actually was out of service for almost 5 weeks at one time in that prior year because parts were not available for it. So we sort of knew this, but an opportunity suddenly arose that there was an aerial ladder truck that was the potential buyer for that piece of equipment had backed out. And so this was a piece of equipment that if we committed to 2.12 million in June, we could have this piece of equipment by spring of the next year, which we did do. It's not the way we tend to operate, but we were trying to be responsive. The fire department had done a lot of legwork and had a private foundation that was funding 1.5 million of that. And the fire department was willing offers to take on 120,000. So they asked us for $500,000, which we really had never budgeted for. So it is, if you want to think about it, huge in that particular budget year. It was not an easy thing for us to do. We used the entirety, which was $179,600 of our COVID relief funds. Those were the only funds a community of our size got. We put that toward it. We took our entire contingency budget. We always budget about 125 contingency. We took that. We jumped into reserves and we shifted funds, and we did meet that $500,000 payment. We had to do it because the village was the entity who signed the contract. It's our piece of equipment. So we had to commit to that. We recognize that was an anomaly. When we came to begin our 25-26 budget discussions in February, this was presented. It's based on the use statistics, et cetera. And you can see that we all gulped because we looked at Town of Middlefield and it was incredibly high. It's listed as 123,714.99 was their percentage, because I was told by the prior chief that there were 36 calls to that town of Penfield fire district, not mutual aid or anything like that, just to that district. You can also see their number of EMS calls, which was 98, but our EMS budget was quite a bit smaller, so that did not impact them as much. That was only 4,937. Recognizing that was a phenomenally high amount, these are contracts that go out to the towns, and they remit usually in January or February of the following year, if you want to think about it. That's because they're putting together their budget. We recognized this was incredibly large, so we did, as soon as we formed our tentative by the March 20th deadline, we sent this to all the townships involved so they could see that. That being understood, they did note that they really hadn't thought about that and how it would impact it. In your packet, you have both the letter that was originally sort of sent by the town of Otsego board members, and you also have one that is more recent, Supervisor Carl. And I will say that on October 9th, Peg Leon and Dave and I and our treasurer met, sat down and discussed this. We had discussed whether we would have attorneys present, but we were told by both attorneys, Dave Putnam and Martin Tilbaugh, that this was really a negotiation between the boards, and it was up to us to discuss it. So we presented all our data. I will say at that point, we'd already done our homework, and the current chief had acknowledged that the aerial ladder had not been called into service. There may have been, that number of calls, but the aerial ladder had not been called into service. I will point out, it's not just for 5-story buildings or anything. If you have a chimney fire, you're also going to be wanting that, but that it was never called into service there after we had purchased it in 2024. We didn't take kind of active usage of it until May of 24, even though it impacted our 23-24 budget. And you have before you the proposal from the town of Middlefield, because obviously they're on a different calendar year and they needed to get their budget formulated and before the voters for public review. So he noted, I am writing to inform you that the town of Middlefield has included the following allocations in our 2026 budget. $29,569 for fire protection services, $20,000 for new equipment. So they are contributing toward that, but not getting hit quite so large. And $4,938 for emergency medical services, which was exactly what was, budgeted for them. In our discussions, this is obviously a board vote to approve this, but I did feel that a negotiation, and I was pleased that they were willing to contribute $20,000 for this piece of equipment, which, as I say, caught us all by surprise. It was not in our original budget and certainly caught the municipalities, the townships by surprise. So are there any questions or comments?
I just had a question, and maybe you said it and I didn't catch it. How was the 29,569 arrived?
It's 19% of the total minus the 500,000.
Yeah, it's basically what it would have been for those number of calls without the 500,000 for the piece of equipment. And yet the 20,000 is toward that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, just to be clear, so the difference between our original number of 1,23,000, and this is about 68,000.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I will point out, you know, it is in our budget, if you want to think about it. Our 25-26 budget shows those contract payments coming in after, you know, January, February 26. So that is reflected there. But the other thing you should realize, these funds were fully expended by the village in fiscal year 23. So it's not like we're not able to pay bills. We did it. Yeah. So I will make a motion that we accept the town of Middlefield proposal of 29,569 for fire protection services, 20,000 for new equipment, and 4,938 for emergency medical services. Second by Audrey. Any further discussion? Motion to approve? Aye. Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate that. Was that into the weeds enough? Everyone, sorry. I want to make sure everybody understood. Thanks. All right, moving on. Doubleday Advisory Committee did not. That was, of course, Hannah's committee, and I've already spoken to our newest trustee and asked her to chair a advisory committee. And she has accepted that. That'll be her appointment. Hannah also sat on Parks Board, and we'd love to have you consider that one too. Chairing double. Thank you, Molly. All right. So Streets Committee. And Cynthia, I'm going to cover it New York Forward under grants and contracts.
Yeah, I thought that would make sense.
Perfect.
All right, so much of what we have to talk about tonight has to do with our brand new EV chargers, which are finally, I feel like everyone's been hearing about these for years at this point.
Operation.
Oh, yeah, they are up and running in the Fowler Way parking lot. So the first item is to declare the EV chargers that are in the Doubleday Field parking lot as surplus. The reason to do that is because those chargers are outdated. They are very slow. They are the subject of numerous complaints. So I would like to make a motion to declare the EV chargers in the Doubleday Field parking lot as surplus.
Motion made, second by Joe. All in favor?
I do have a question. What happens to them?
We'll probably offer them. Yeah.
So they're usable by somebody else? Just like-
And we really think someone used.
Well,
I
hate to see them end up in the landfill, so however they get.
No, I think someone will buy them for some purpose. It might be
Yeah.
a private purpose as opposed to a public purpose.
Yeah.
but
Okay.
Yeah, they are 10 years old or more, and the
Yeah.
technology has
it's
changed.
changing
Right,
fast.
right.
Yeah.
All right, so having done, we now need to think about parking. Because we currently have 2 spaces designated in the Doubleday Field parking lot closest to the utility pole for electric vehicle charging. So we would need to remove that. You may recall in past discussions, when we do remove that, we want to address a walkway as possible that would lead from the Doubleday Field parking lot to Doubleday Court, which is private property. There's some stairs there. We've had numerous complaints, and in getting rid of these, we probably have enough room to do that. So that's number 1. Number 2, we need to think about parking in the Fowler Way parking lot now that we have 4 wonderful EV chargers there and working, particularly during the winter. So that parking lot has a row of parking on the west side, a row of parking down the center, a row of parking on the east side that now includes 4 designated EV spaces, and then it has a row of parking along the north end. If you've been there since these EV chargers were installed, you also know that at that north end, there's a lot more equipment than there used to be. And as we are thinking about snow removal, we realized we can't put the snow where we used to put it because there is now EV charging equipment there. So one of the changes that is being proposed is to push the snow into those parking spaces that remain on the north side of that parking lot so that we have a place to put the snow, which would mean people can't park there in the winter. The other thing about that parking lot is it has long had this holdover from past times, allowing buses and RVs to park in there. Buses certainly don't park there anymore. I don't know that any have in a very long time, since we've had our satellite lots in use. RVs perhaps occasionally, but our suggestion is that we now limit that parking lot to passenger vehicles.
If anybody wants to follow a little more.
Oh, yeah.
It's in your additional agenda. It says proposed parking changes, and it's a little, it's a great job kind of outlining. Cross out in our, and what that's adding in our law.
So I guess the one thing that may be worth discussing is RVs. And whether people feel they still need to be able to access that parking lot. It would certainly be easier if we limited this to passenger vehicles.
So where would RVs go?
So RVs during our tourist season go to the satellite lots and then they can take the trolleys in. During the non-tourist season, the closest lot is the red lot. And then people would walk from the red lot. If you are towing a vehicle, right? So if you have an RV and then a tow
Yeah.
vehicle, it's not that,
Not a big deal.
not as
Yeah.
big a deal. It's people who are driving RVs that are over 20 feet in length, so they're not allowed to park on our streets. Who are, under consideration. It is certainly possible, as we know, to drop one's family off at the Hall of Fame, for instance, find a place to park and then walk back.
Right.
It is a little more inconvenient.
It certainly isn't an issue with buses, as we were describing, because this is decades ago that this existed there. In that time, we removed all kind of on-street parking in front of the Hall of Fame. They were ecstatic. There's a trolley stop and room for 2 buses, because as they said, that's exactly what they want. They want their customers to come right to the front of the building and be there. Then they go up, usually to like the yellow lot or the blue lot, because they can be notified by phone when they need to do a pickup. Right.
So I wrote it this way, and Martin's gonna correct me if I'm wrong, as the most restrictive change that we could make. And then if we hold a public hearing and we have a number of RV owners who are concerned about this, or people who are speaking on behalf of RV owners, we could always throw the RVs back in.
Questions?
Set a public hearing for our November 17th meeting to amend section 270-14 of our parking regulations concerning the Doubleday Field parking lot and the Fowler Way parking lot.
I'll second that. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
You will see in your supplemental packet correspondence concerning signage, which I will admit to seeing for the first time tonight. And I don't quite understand the question. The person who is writing this note that they need to replace our signs with signs that are green and larger, as per the example that you see there. And then the question says, I'm reaching out to you to notify you of the change. And if there is some kind of reason that the village would like to keep the black and white sign. Now, I don't know whether that means we're removing the sign and we want to know whether you want it or whether you want to. Street. There are 3 good reasons that I see for keeping it on the street. One, having smaller non-DOT standard signs is a traffic calming device as one pulls into the village. You slow down to see the smaller black signs. 2, this notifies people that they are entering a residential zone and not a
cheaper highway bill. You'll be going from commercial there where say grill is and oh, that's.
Now you're to a residential zone. We have resident type signage. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say, and you know, I look at these and I'm always wondering what ether space these things existed in, because it looks like it came at 9:35 this morning and it literally popped in. And as soon as I did, I forwarded it to Jenna. It was like this afternoon at about, I don't know, almost 2 o'clock. I got this thing and we made sure we got it in the packet. So I do not know any more about it. I don't know if they're talking about the white street sign or are they talking about like the pedestrian crossing signs? That's what I thought they were addressing. I don't know.
Oh,
Green and square and big. I the problem with the crossing things that I thought he was referring to this street.
The speed limit sign? No.
no, the street,
Oh, the Chestnut Street, Walnut Street, those green and white ones.
That's what they.
Okay, we're fine with their yellow signs for those. And we'd like to keep our speed limit 30. But it is our traditional street signs. I think we go back and say he's really referencing requires to install green and white, and I'm not sure. Yeah, the street sign there is currently black and white. Yeah, that's totally within the village.
We're
Totally.
subject to the uniform standards, traffic signs. In other words, it's
The
like,
traffic, but our street signs?
oh, you're talking just. which
Yeah,
street?
we're fine with those. We're fine keeping the
Okay,
white.
yeah.
It's this that we're looking
I
at.
don't think there's anything about uniform signage for street sign.
Yeah, it's funny. Current standards require us to install green and white street signs that are larger than the existing.
Okay, if we elaborate a little bit, I'm looking at these caution signs, they're looking.
they are green, but I think they're supposed to be yellow.
yeah,
Yeah, they look green. Yeah.
yeah.
And they're saying our blue signs here.
This is green.
That's supposed to be green. The colors are off.
Either,
I think it's.
according to that.
Yeah, it's greenish.
But they're-
Let me just say that there is something called the uniform manual of traffic control devices. You should, George probably knows this, but many times somebody will make their own signs and they're 2 inches off. Attorneys use it all the time to get tickets shown out, not legal sign. And it's
Who would
been
do
known
that?
yeah, bad attorneys. But the point of all that is, I've never read that there is a uniform street sign. So I would want to look into that before you accede to their desires. Or if you just want to, I'd start off, if you feel comfortable, you want all your signs uniform throughout the village, you say, sorry.
Yeah, I think that would be my response and I'll CC everyone so everybody gets responded to. It came to just me that we're fine with the uniform pedestrian and arrows and we're willing, we want to retain our speed sign, et cetera. These signs that are in the village, we really feel that our street signage everywhere else is as existing, and that is the type of sign we'd like to.
So if you wanna.
To be clear, there are two elements to this upper sign that they want to put, it's the color and the larger size.
Yeah.
And we think we can, you're gonna look into it.
But I've never seen uniform. Was there some state rule when they're giving us money to do something, but I can't believe they can, it seems kind of heavy-handed.
Also, all of a sudden, some street signs would be green and white and others wouldn't be. That's kind
I
of,
just see traffic calming for street signs for
Having a giant traffic sign, it means you can go faster.
a
And-
bigger Walnut Street sign says go faster. There's
Yeah.
size and color we prefer. And it's traffic calming, the smaller size. It's a historic district, okay.
And
And that
where
is-
their standards come from.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can
Hey,
promulgate
yeah.
a standard, yeah, it's just not, I doubt they have the authority unless we've got signed a contract.
Fine, if everyone has consensus, I will say see everyone on my response to Tim Belonder. All right,
You'll see on the agenda, New York Forward RFP. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later, when we talk about grants. The two other things that I will, just point out, as you might imagine, the Army Corps of Engineers are furloughed. So, you know, we're this close.
on again, off again, on again.
And the other thing I'd like to point out would security tree for a fall planting, so we may be pushing that off to the spring.
Securing the trees or somebody to plant them?
The trees,
Really?
yeah.
Hmm.
Apparently it was popular tree planting year.
Oh,
And if there's any other questions about the streets minutes, I'm happy to answer them.
Any other questions? Motion to accept Streets Committee report by George, second by Audrey. Buildings Committee, minutes attached.
I will point out that the meeting took 7 minutes and
Yeah.
Richard was, you know, Richard was a bit disappointed that he hadn't beat his record from the previous month. If you weren't here yesterday for the pumpkin glow, I understand it was quite spectacular on the front porch. It's the fantastic event that the Cooperstown Art Association puts on. I will also notice if you, like me, are trying to get rid of books,
yes.
the 8th is your morning to do that.
That's the drop off day?
That is the drop off date, yes.
Books.
Book collection.
Is which day?
The 8th of November. The one thing for us to consider, concerns the replacement of the flooring on the front porch. We have not had a lot of success finding people who want to entertain that project. We have done our due diligence and we have one quote and 2 other people who said no way or didn't even bother to return a call. So we got our 3. The one that we have has given us a quote both for fir and for mahogany. You can see the numbers in your agenda. Fir is 26, mahogany is 28,000. I think at this point, we want to move forward and authorize those projects or that project. Is that true?
If I can respond now.
Oh, well, he may have fallen off the face of the earth like our other
So we got to that
contractors.
square one.
All right. In the event that Mitch can get this contractor to commit to this project, I would like to make a motion that we approve up to $28,000 for the work. It is a budgeted expense.
Motion made, seconded by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
That it?
Can I just ask one question? I was a little confused about the dates for the library for the book sale because maybe I'm reading this wrong because it's under Art Association. The Friends of the Village Library moved their November event date to November 2nd, which,
That's so the,
That's the art, it's the ballroom,
okay.
it's the Friends event.
Speakers.
Sunday.
Oh, the speakers thing. Okay, all right.
there
got
was
it.
an additional article about it. It sounded very interesting. It was.
Yeah, I just
Erie
read it.
Canal.
yeah, the Erie Canal. I actually heard him speak at Convivium.
Yeah.
It is interesting.
Yeah, and know that the reason for that change is that starting November 3rd, we are having work done on our stairs, which will make the stairs inaccessible while that is taking place. People can continue to use the elevator. They could use the fire escape on the outside of the building, but it will be, we're trying not to do things in the ballroom or on the 3rd floor during that period.
Cindy, I just had one, and I've mentioned this outside the meeting. We're in the heating season, so we can find time to get our stones up in this building. Some energy.
All right. Do we approve buildings? I can't remember.
Not yet.
I think the motions were made.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
The
in
motions were
favor.
made. Sorry, yes, all in favor. I interrupted.
not this.
Oh, the
not
28,000, right.
Joe,
Okay, so I'm seconding the motion to accept the meeting.
Wait, we have.
No, the 28,000.
So you voted on four, that's
Okay.
all that.
Oh, we're done with that? Okay.
28,000 was all. And then we moved on to this, her question of the sentence,
So we did or did not, but the porch.
but not the report.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was doing. No, all right, and all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to you, Joe, finance and personnel.
Oops. You have in your packet a considerable number of items, and we also have the additional agenda. So typically we do this by consent, and I would recommend we do that as well. But there are a couple of things, and I'll ask the mayor's assistance in discussing this. The finance committee, before I move to the motion, the finance committee met with our insurance provider for our employees and had a lengthy meeting on Thursday about the group healthcare plan for the coming year. Prices have gone up and benefits have gone down. And our broker, who was very thoughtful and informative, presented us with information that's in your packet. I've got the color version of it, and the recommendation was that we change from our current carrier to Excellus and use their bonds HRA program. The goal of this is to hold our employees whole so that we cover their co-pays when they're covered for health care purposes in the village. They have no out-of-pocket expenses. We manage the risk of how much co-paying we may have to do through analyses that our broker does, and we come up with estimates of what that risk is. But I just wanted to highlight that, and maybe I wanted to have something else to add to that.
I think that it looks, so I think it looks a little hard sometimes to, even though he does this fabulous job. So just so you realize that current HRA is what we have been funding recently, but the past year. We were to renew it, you're looking pretty much at it got cut off a little bit, but the 400, so it went up almost $100,000, 411,607. And he does put this percentage on there. So I remember looked at that, but he recommended that last one, Excellus Bronze HRA option. It does leave us a little more exposed if you want to think, because it's a higher embedded cost of 8,500, 1,700. But if you look at the amount line, essentially we're looking at a negative 6.92, correct? I mean, that's the way we understood it. Truly, I think we had, how long? Over an hour conversation. We wanted to solve the nation's healthcare issue. Just wasn't feasible, very frustrating, particularly for anyone who had CDPHP, because if you know that, you know they're exiting our region totally. And then there was one for the Medicare component, which is the next sheet. And did you go over that one?
I did not. What, you want to pick that up? We made a recommendation. This is local.
I don't think, do we have that one?
It's MVP.
Oh, yeah,
Looks like
I see it.
It's 2 pages.
Yep.
In the packet.
Oh.
You want mine?
Yeah.
We shoot that down to him.
So
No, it's fine.
so this was a Medicare quote. And we ended up
his, let's see, so the current rate was, that was 306 hours and 53 cents. And I'm trying to, and we were going to take that one, is that correct? The
Yeah.
Which one, which,
see care
Yeah.
PO, the first,
Mhm.
the first column that runs across.
East.
The handwritten
Yeah.
figure in there.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yep.
So the goal of all of this discussion, you can see it gets pretty weedy because they're accounting for all the different classes and benefits. The upshot of this, after his analysis, was his recommendation that we have as much coverage as we can get for our employees with no out-of-pocket expenses for our employees. And I think this combination of plans that he presented does that to the best of our ability under the conditions we're living with healthcare.
So we will kind of approve this going, for this coming year, and he will then meet with the employees to review the healthcare.
can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I don't understand what's the difference between the East, West and OSA. It all looks the same to me,
Zones, and I believe we're the east, and that's,
but it looks like it's all the same, but
yeah.
we can only be the East. Because we're from the East, right? Okay, just trying to understand what I'm looking at.
That was probably that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Um,
But that's not really the consent agenda. He's just going.
So we have, I would move the consent agenda with the understanding, well, one of the big items on that consent agenda to approve is I think it's a final payment, an extra final payment for the Pioneer Street project, which is finished and has been paid.
Yeah. I'm sorry, from that consent agenda, we need to pull item 8. There was a correction to that. Approval to pay Hemlock Hill Water Service LLC in the amount of $3,875. Remember, we had a question on that, and there is clarification. So we can just approve that one separately.
Which one is that?
Number 8.
Number 8.
Hemlock Hill Water. Okay, so we will remove that from the consent agenda. All right,
So I move the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
second by Cindy, all in favor? And then we do have some
So-
other items. Yes, so there's, it's in your additional packet. You have
Yeah, an invoice, let's see, number
AZZ.
8, item number 8. The approval of invoice for A2Z Environmental LLC in the amount of $3,575.
Yep. And also in there is the Hemlock Hill Water Services. The reason there was an adjustment is that the full monthly fee is $38.75, and we had been billed that for invoice that, I should say, for the month of October, but the employee was actually on the payroll for part of October. We allowed them to use their sick time. So they did revise the October invoice and also submitted November. So that is, so the total is $5,812.50.
I would move the approval of that payment.
All right, so motions made by Joe, seconded by George, all in favor?
Aye.
That everything?
I think so. We'll discuss the water and sewer rate increase in water and sewer.
Did we get no, and there's also the employee status change form
Yeah.
for Sarah.
Oh, like, in personnel, yes, we've, to replace our retiring deputy treasurer, we have, interviewed with a number of applicants and have selected, Sarah Schiff to be our deputy treasurer. And I move the approval of her.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Joe. Need a motion to accept the report? Finance?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Welcome home Cooperstown. Yes, I know it is November 4th, election day, but we always do the first Tuesday of each month. So on Tuesday, November 4th, welcome home Cooperstown will feature Filipino culture. And our meet and greet, it's going to be 5:30 to 7, we're back to our all hours. And the November event will celebrate the Filipino community in Cooperstown. Area residents Richard Mana Belong and Eden Martinez and Abigail Quintos will share information about Filipino culture along with samples of food and song. And additional refreshment will be provided. Are you ready, Romo? By the mayor and board of trustees.
All right.
Recall,
Yes, I.
we were actually, we lobbied for our
Like the
summer hamburgers. We bought hot dogs. Joe was so proficient on the grill, we thought we had mastered that one. But this Welcome Home Cooperstown has just been so successful in our community. But there was one day, 1 month when that was free for us, and it's November 4th. Recognizing we wouldn't be out there and grilling, I did reach out to Brian Ripleski to see, because there is some food, and I will tell you that there was some back and forth of, we don't need the trustees now, but then you can never have too much food, and, you know, rather than burden our presenters with a lot of having prepared a ton of food. I reached out to Brian for a couple cans of bigger foods. And also we will purchase refreshments. Obviously, this will come from village funds, because we agreed to sponsor this. We can't buy alcohol, obviously. So I know some of us, I'm bringing a bottle of wine. So any of you want to bring a bottle of wine, do that. That is this month. I want to tell you that we have some exciting things planned. If you would call, for the past several years, we've done meet and greet and stroll the street, and businesses stay open on Main Street. And we had those nice little like bag
Luminaries.
area, which unfortunately were collected by someone and inadvertently thrown out. So we feel a little bad about that. It seemed to be fine with everybody. So we have a new event this year, and the Friends of the Library have gotten a grant, and they will be doing gingerbread house building up in the library in the ballroom from 3:30 to about 5. And it's going to be first come, first serve, because if 300 kids turn out, we probably won't have 300 gingerbread kits, but it could be a real fun beginning. We always incorporate some children's element in these events. And then we'll have a little meet and greet, but then we are encouraging people to stroll the street, and businesses. Last year they had stayed open to 8, but they said really 7's a good time. People are going out to eat or going home to eat or whatever. So it'll be till 7. And the businesses that participate will have a gingerbread figure on their door as you go down. So it's called the Gingerbread Stroll.
Ah.
And we're really excited about that. I think it's going to be again, a wonderful popular event. We'll have the little fire pit with the mat to protect the ground and all that, just as in past years.
What date was that?
That one's December 2nd, excuse me.
And for Welcome Home Cooperstown, don't forget to get an early start with your cake breakfast on election day.
Yes, yes.
And to carve up.
Yeah.
We're now going to talk about New York Forward, and that will pull over the component that we were going to talk about, Cindy, which is the RFPs. I need more water, sorry.
You want me to start?
Yes.
Nothing even said.
Sorry, everybody's taking a break.
So we put out an RFP for 5 different projects that are part of the New York Forward Award. They are all municipal projects. 4 of them are sort of street road infrastructure related. The 5th has to do with signage that would get people from the red lot down through the county property and would connect that part of town on Upper Main Street with the core of Main Street. We received 3 responses to our RFP. 2 of them were for all 5 components. 1 of them was only for the signage. The mayor and I have been talking to the Department of State to understand what our options are. I think tonight, we certainly won't make an award, but we'd like the consensus of the board in terms of how to move forward because there are a few more questions that need to be answered. The signage proposal is just for the signage. It is by a local graphic designer who currently has an application in to become a recognized woman business enterprise, WBE, that has not been awarded yet, which is unfortunate. Department of State told us that we could certainly award first portion of this award separately, and seemed fairly enthusiastic about awarding it to a local business. It is the same business that did our other signs, so there would definitely be, continuity between what we have and what we don't. The 2 other responses to our RFP were both by larger engineering firms. We have worked with them both previously, including on various elements that are part of this project. If you went through the very lengthy documents that I emailed you, you may have noticed that there is a significant cost difference between the 2 in the range of about $100,000. So our recommendation, and this is what we want to get the board's consensus on, is to continue negotiations with the lower respondent, and particularly what it would mean to take out the signage and if they would still be able to meet MWBE requirements for the project. They also may need to add, after conversations with them, some surveying work. It was not clear to them that Hoffman Lane particularly had not been fully surveyed.
Can I ask a question about Hoffman Lane? I'm a little confused because they talk in their proposal about the stormwater runoff, the retention tanks, and did I understand it correctly that we didn't get money for that amenity?
We didn't get money that requires us to meet green infrastructure requirements. We still have to address stormwater in some way. And there's a stormwater issue in Hoffman Lane, and there is on Pioneer Alley. But when we had applied for the GIGP money, there were very specific ways that we were able to address stormwater that included rain gardens. So there were rain gardens as part of that plan that included permeable pavements and pavers. We do not have to do those specific things. We do have to make sure that our stormwater is addressed.
I may just ask a question. Surveying a street,
Mhm.
I mean, most of our streets are not surveyed. We claim about to public use.
Mhm.
And as a result, I'm not sure, typically that's gonna go pretty much building to building. If you recall, we had to give a lot of rights of way for people who had stairs coming in on Main Street. Because technically there's no deed for
Right.
any of those
Correct.
streets, and
Yeah.
there's no need for that, so I don't know what you're paying for to get a survey. My guess is those go building to building.
They do go building to building, and there are I believe, and anyone who's looked at it believes, similar to Main Street, there are incursions into our right of way. But that will need to either issue licenses or come to some other agreement. Yeah,
Just, cost of surveying now, if we're purchasing.
or
It-
purchase.
Yeah, we
Yep.
may have to acquire certain pieces.
Yeah. It is really Hoffman Lane that is the issue. Pioneer Alley, we understand fairly well because of who our neighbors are. Fowler Way, we understand because of Doubleday Field, and we know where the Hall of Fame owns. The Grove Street sidewalk, not so much of an issue, but Hoffman Lane is,
Yeah.
it's a complicated thing. And when we did our initial design, the company we were working with at that point said, if this moves forward, we'll have to survey. Yeah.
I don't know, they surveyed.
No, it has to go,
Maximum 49.5 feet, we've used it for 11 years, maintained it, it should give us an affidavit.
yeah,
We have the right to use that with. And if somebody's got an encroachment that is impacting us, we can negotiate it, but I just found it, I'm sorry, I just. found it-
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, there's one property though, that seems to be the flip side of that. It's been there since the 19th century, that is, that the right of way impinges on. It's so that the question is who's impinging on whom. I just don't know what you do with a survey issue like that, because clearly encroachment has not affected the village's use and maintenance of the property, right? Because it's Hoffman Lane and it's being done, but there is at least one structure.
Yeah, but I think it's,
But if it is encroaching, I mean, it wouldn't technically under public user rights, if you remember, we went all the way to the Court of Appeals. Fenimore Lane, sure, and because there was a big debate about the width and buildings within it, but public user allows you to receive title to the width of the road, but if there is a structure, an impediment, you don't take their impediment unless we find a public use that we want to exercise in that domain, which I'm sure we don't want that expense. I'm just saying, typically our road is up to 30 or 49.5 feet, but if there's something there, we are just the area that we maintain, but if we've only maintained to a certain point, that house has a building has a right to be there. And it just, I think a survey is going to show that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it may show where individuals in terms of trying to direct water or lay pavers or that sort of thing may have,
yes, no,
edged out on our 3 rods.
okay, all right.
So
Government,
is there a sense of the board that awarding the signage contract separately and continuing negotiations with the lower of the 2 proposers is what makes sense? And hopefully by next month, we'll come back with contract documents.
I think we should point out, Stefan's response to your email.
Yes, so what he said is if someone has submitted an application to be a WBE or an NBE and it has not yet been recognized and certified, it doesn't count. It doesn't, no monies that are expended before certification would count toward that requirement. You can't go backward.
We also asked them to sort of, sending out, they might be able to expedite this particular.
Yeah, he said
application,
no.
And that was a pretty,
Pretty firm, no.
no, that was a no.
Well, how long will it take? Did they give any protection?
I think what we're gonna do is ask this firm to reach out to their person.
And
ask
say
that
they have the
question.
potential for this contract and
Like,
see if
are
they work.
we gonna see it in the next 30 days, or are we talking 6 months from now? Cause there's probably a different answer depending on what the answer is.
Okay. I just wanted to remind people, because we keep talking about New York Forward. Remember, we got 4.5 million, and I just want to refresh our memory. I did this a little bit in the mayor's message this month because I hear sometimes erroneous information. One of the big awardees was 1.3 million to what was then called in the original application Willowbrook Residential. It's now the Grove. It's the development on the corner of Glen and Grove. They got 1.3 million. And then 53 Pioneer Project got 640,000 to rehabilitate that structure. There was a component called the Small Project Fund, and we were so fortunate that, was it just this spring of this year, New York State DOS selected Mohawk Valley Economic Development District to handle that. We certainly did not want in any way to be involved in handing out money to select businesses in the village. So there was a separate little panel in the village that worked with Mohawk Valley, and they picked projects. And again, it doesn't involve the village other than we got that original money. But I thought you might be interested. $300,000, Mohawk Valley Economic Development District administered that small project fund and awarded funds to Golden Swan Trading LLC at 45 Pioneer, Silver Fox Gift Shop at 83 Main, Rudy's Wine and Liquor at 143, 147 Main, Otsego Properties Group at 216 Main, and FR Woods House of Pro Sports and Baseball Town Motel at 61 Main. And, you know, those were significant and all within our downtown boundary. I do know they had applications that were not approved. So we had been told that there were close to 600,000 in applications for that. Again, we didn't handle it all and the monies were distributed. But we were pleased that essentially we got 0.26 million of these funds for public use. If you want to think about it, we're doing Pioneer Alley, Hoffman Lane, build sidewalks on Grove Street, improve access and circulation on Fowler Way, and improve wayfinding. And our projects totaled 2.26 million. So really significant. But what Cindy was referencing is that MWBE component and all state contracts, whether it's our local waterfront grant or any of them, there is that component. And it's not just 30%, it's 15% minority-owned businesses, 15% women-owned. And on our grant funds, that amounts to 678,000. So that's why that MWBE certification is critical. The ones who did submit those RFPs subcontracted with a minority business and a women-owned business in order to meet goals. But we'll be watching, that'll have to be carried all this through all the construction phase, etc. Just so everybody kind of has that in their radar.
May I ask a question about, you said, did I hear you right, 640,000 for the Pioneer Street? Three Pioneers. Do you know if that's additive to the $2.5 million fundraising, or in their fundraising effort they announced they completed? Is that 600?
You'd have to discuss that with them. I don't know their particular finances per se. Yeah. So on your agenda, I'll just report that Cooperstown I&I study, remember that's a $50,000 grant. We've already got reimbursed for 25. Delaware Engineering had submitted an engineering grant, and New York State DEC had asked some clarification and questions. So not until that final engineering grant is accepted by DEC can we submit for the rest of our 25,000 on that. Round 9, Restore New York. Again, we we're pleased to have $1 million for this project, and hopefully in early January or February, they will know if they have their 9% tax credits. Project Ferry Spring, we're on hold till New York State Parks decides if their location change is acceptable.
It should be November.
And
December?
I would love it to be the late November, but it could be December. Yeah, it's kind of out there. Nothing really new to report on that. There is something on Achieve, and I saw that you were on the webinar today. There was a very long, it seemed like, webinar on all the Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development District programs, big time in a program they call Go Semi, which is their semiconductor business, or, you know, trying to really promote that. It's fascinating. They believe that you know, that they are essentially investing about 125 billion in developing this semiconductor industry in New York State. Interestingly, Mohawk Valley ranked second to New York City in tourism revenue, 4.3 billion in 2022. I thought these statistics were fascinating.
So I asked why.
Oneida.
It's because of Turning Stone.
It's the Oneida Nation is all of it, but you know, other tourism places are up there.
Because they made a comment during the meeting about Oneida being the leader. And I didn't understand Oneida Nation. I was thinking Oneida County.
Right.
I was thinking who, you know,
No.
I don't want to put down
Turning Stone has long been the.
Oneida County, but you know, it doesn't seem like the hotbed of vacation tourism, but it's Turning Stone.
It is, and all the adjacent properties,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
But as you recall, we applied for an Achieve grant, and that was this window that's opened in New York State for funding for each of the development councils. And remember, there are 10 regional economic development councils throughout New York State. And this is money thrown out there to essentially put together an application. And that's what was kind of disclosed today. The application that will be forthcoming from the Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development District. There was a Zoom meeting we could attend, but the board members all voted by raising their little hands that floated to the top. It was a very exciting moment to watch that. But they went through, there are 3 huge anchor projects, nothing to do with us. Number 1, Empire State Greenhouses. Agriculture is like phenomenal. I couldn't have told you that agribusiness, as they call it, is such a big element in New York State. That will be developed at Cooperstown. This one is really interesting. Hashima Mineral Resource Farm, Sharon Springs. That's an anchor project. There are 3 anchor projects. The third one, Nexus Neighbor, it's in Utica, and they're essentially redeveloping 3 entire city blocks. It will have residences, hotel, lodging, etc. Very exciting. You know, usually they figure pretty big in a lot of this, but there are 12 supporting projects and 34 pipeline. 12, they put up the first slide. 1, Munson Museum expansion and upgrades. 2, National Baseball Hall of Fame expansion. 3, Doubleday Field improvements. So that's in there. Now, that doesn't mean we'll get funding because of these 10 that regional districts are all submitting plans like this. This is what Mohawk's putting in, but we got on it. The New York State will pick anywhere from 3 to 5 regions to receive 30 to 50 million. So it'd be covered. So, you know, we have a 50% chance that our region might be getting those funds. I was still excited as anything. I was.
Well, Molly, good timing.
Yes, really.
Yeah.
Good timing to be at Doubleday.
Yeah. Oh, pretty exciting. So, and then we've also already covered the New York State DOT, which I will follow up on. So that's all I had. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
that
you.
is great.
All right, let's go on to Parks Board.
The Parks Board, we had a rather brief meeting. We did not have a quorum, but we did get some updates, and I'm happy to report that Gary Hill had expressed his concern about the bathhouses at 3 Mile, and the Friends of the Parks did paint everything, and it looks much better. And John is going to replace some of the hardware, and Friends of the Parks did well in their fundraising, and they are going to be doing their annual appeal very soon. I did attend their meeting last week, and they are pursuing the mural on the back of Price Chopper. And the artist thinks he can get the funding for it. And I was just going to pull it up, and he was away in Spain, but he is going to submit a plan for Animals of the Valley in sort of an early 1900s painting style. And he'll do some community workshops at the same time. And the only concern was prepping the building so that it can receive the mural. So that's to be determined. And he seems pretty confident, I think, about raising some funds for this. So should be a nice project. The park survey, we would like to go out. I don't know where Randy is on it. I don't know if you spoke to him. I saw
know.
some
I just emailed him.
about the how we're going to distribute it, whether it's Survey Monkey or we pay for it, but we're eager to get that started. The other thing that I think I wanted to report on is that at the Friends of the Park meeting, they suggested that the next newsletter, we start advertising about lifeguards and getting an early jump on that.
I would say the February one might be good. This one's pretty long.
It is, okay.
Or do the February first one, it'd be a good time to.
Okay. Yep. And I know that they are willing to assist in a number of ways to help with the lifeguard situation. They did not seem to think that the rate of pay was an issue, but I'm not so sure. And then Will had mentioned the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution is coming up, and the state has budgeted money to be distributed to counties, and there might be an opportunity for our region, our county for sure will have something, but perhaps we could have some signage related to Rev 4 area.
I do want to point out that all our boards are actually, I know more people sit around the table at Parks Board, but by our organizational meeting minutes, it's actually 5 serve on there, just like our zoning boards or others. And so if you have 3, you can approve the minutes. And you had 3. She had
But liaison from faculty.
they were
Jean was not there, Randy was there, and Will was there.
present were Audrey, Will
Will and
and
Randy.
Randy. Those
So we
3.
could have approved.
And you actually sort of include, you have an additional, but you had a representative from Friends, which we always have as a liaison. But you had 3 Parks Board members. there.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Sorry, well, we'll approve
No.
minutes next time.
Just watching zoning often out of 7 people comes down to 3,
Yeah.
doing things. So perfect.
Good to
Thank
know.
you so much. No questions? Motion to approve parks. Joe, second by Cindy, all in favor? Community and Environment did not meet in October. Moving on to Water and Sewer Board.
The minutes there are there for your review. We have one action item that we have not covered. And that is the reimbursement of $1,570.44 that resulted from an inadvertent damage to a sewer lateral during the course of the water main break repair. And after a lot of discussion, it was the water and sewer authority recommended that reimbursement be made. So I moved
the reimbursement to Katie Kelly of $1,572. Those expenses.
Motion made by Joe, seconded by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
I have one other thing that this came up in our packet tonight. It was interesting, we not discussed at our water and sewer board meeting, and that's the water and sewer rate increase. There's a nice descriptor in the packet that describes how our water rates are calculated. But what it doesn't state is the reason for the increase that is announced, and I'm just trying to understand. As I said, we didn't discuss it. Is this a periodic, automatic?
It's almost, and it should be. In fact, NICOM recommends that we be looking at these water and sewer rates just about every year. When we raised them, we approved it in like end of January 2023. And it took effect May 1st, 2023. So next year it'll be 3 years and we have not had an increase. We are looking at significant, we've been doing this I&I. We know, the relining of some of our sewer lines is effective. We've got to address more of the inflow and infiltration. These are all costs, as well as we've applied now, I think, 2 or 3 times for water meters. I never got them. And we have, if you recall, worked with, it was Lamont, I believe, and the board approved hiring them at a cost of maybe $3,500 or something like that to submit an application for, again, water meters. Obviously, the most frequent complaint you get in water sewer board is unintentional leaks, and I will tell you, I had one, it wasn't a leak. We had a toilet that wasn't even that old that we left for, 2 days to visit our children. And I came back in, and the minute I entered that house, I heard that toilet running, and I ran in. And sure enough, when our water bill came, it's phenomenal. They figure, online, just Google leaking toilet, and you will see how many gallons. So it is a way to meet the increasing costs of our infrastructure. And as hopefully the article, this will appear in Village Voices if we approve this. We're trying to give residents an opportunity. In other words, they're getting, when this Village Voices goes out November 1st, they get their water and sewer, and it's at the old rate, and that's talked about. But effective with the February 1st billing, so they know it's coming, they're getting forewarned. We try and give at least a quarter notification. It will increase, and it is about a 10% increase. So, if you have, I'll say, a $300 bill over the course of the year or whatever it is, unfortunately, I'm not that much, but it's about 10%. And I know we really debated this last time. Mitch and I worked up the figures, and we, it's really from the average user, we're talking possibly less than $30.
So the service disconnection and repairs, the last item, is not something that I have seen before, and it is a lot of money.
Okay, will you say that again?
Service disconnection and repairs?
Yeah, that's always on the list. This is a list, we didn't create this, this is the village list that the.
This is the old one, correct? And this is the new one?
One water, one sewer.
No,
Oh,
one salt sewer, and
Oh.
one water.
so what does service disconnection and repair mean for wastewater?
Well, that would be like a new house, and we left to for a new sewer line.
Well, that's the new tap. What's the disconnection?
I don't think we've ever used it, but it's in there if you suddenly take out your system or something, I would imagine. I don't ever remember that being.
No.
The water one makes more sense to me where there's like a labor rate.
It actually has labor rate problem.
Yeah, it looked a little low.
43, 34 right now.
Oh. I don't know. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, I don't know, unless that's if you disconnect it and use that to dig down cap your lateral.
I didn't like that repairs was thrown in there too, because that means
Yeah.
like it could bite us.
So if there's a demolition.
Those are no different than existing. We aren't changing any of those. The only amount that's being changed on these
Are the prices.
is the 0.70768. And outside, which is double than 0.1536. Those are really, it's the usage.
So we need to adjust the labor rate then on water,
Yeah.
so it's accurate.
Again, this would not be, if you approve it, it would be effective February 1st.
Right, it's just trying to understand what these elements are.
Yeah,
So if someone is to demolish a building that's connected to our sewer system, there'd be a fee of $1,500 to deal with that. I mean, I just, so if people ask, I just.
I've never seen this.
I was gonna say, that's nothing that was changed. They've been on there for probably decades. That was never changed, those figures.
Well, I would suggest that we put labor at an hourly rate and not
Okay,
this 1,500. I don't have a problem with any of the rest of it.
all right. So is there a motion to approve the increase in water rates for inside and outside village as well as wastewater rates effective February 1st, 2026? Made by Joe, seconded by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll ask you to follow up on revising any of those. Just so everyone knows, it worked pretty hard to fill my boards, and we still have an alternate. We have 6 people on water and sewer board, but it would be great to get a second alternate, and then no matter what, they can always have the bodies around the table to be making decisions. So if anybody has a suggestion for another water sewer board member, a second alternate, let me know. All right, motion to approve water and sewer board report. By
Second.
Joe, second by Molly, all in favor?
Aye.
You have in your packet the Watershed Supervisory Committee minutes. I will move. As most of you know, we received, I think in September, notification from the village's representative, Jim Howard, that he was resigning effective November 1. And he heads south. And at this time, I'd like to appoint Joe to complete the rest of that term to our organization. So that's the appointment. And I'd like a motion.
So it's your appointment. I'll make a motion to confirm your appointment.
Second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
And thank you, Joe. This was, he still is going to be chair of finance. He's still on water and sewer, so this is an additional task and it's very appreciated. As we have. Next month, November, our meetings early. Recall breakfast with the board at 8 a.m. on November 17th. Our trustee meeting is at 6 p.m. on the 17th. We do have, unfortunately, a little executive session. So if to discuss a various
Do we want our Otsego County representative to stay for said discussion?
That would be good. Is that why you sat through this whole meeting for that? I'm so sorry. I wish you.
Trying to teach her.
Always by,
Yes.
you have a
You
piece of
don't need
paper,
me
right?
for that, right?
Yeah, Charlotte.
Do you want Martin at all?
No.
Whoa, you are dismissed.
Somebody's
happy.
You know